I'm so tired of y'all and this religion stuff. I'm tired of the way that so many of y'all use this religion thing as a reason to just be terrible humans, to shame people.
The whole thing with religion is it's designed to keep you from ever knowing yourself. And this whole good versus bad thing.
You've probably heard the term gaslighting, but have you heard of spiritual gaslighting? Spiritual gaslighting is a form of manipulation.
Do something with it.
It's just money coming to me easily. Money coming in and needing me. Money coming in repeatedly. Money coming, it's just money coming. It's just money coming to me frequently. Money coming in to be with me. Money coming in secretly. Money coming, it's just money coming. It's just money coming to me easily. Money coming in all day. Money coming in repeatedly. Money coming, it's just money coming. It's just money coming to me frequently. Money coming in to be with me. Money coming in secretly. Money coming, it's just money coming. It's just money coming to me easily. Money coming in and needing me. Money coming in repeatedly. Money coming, it's just money coming. It's just.
I'm so tired of y'all and this religion stuff. I'm tired of the way that so many of y'all use this religion thing as a reason to just be terrible humans, to shame people who don't make the same decisions as you, discriminate against others, to harm and to hurt. You know, religion at its core should simply just be a conduit between you and a spiritual power. That's what it should be. And within that conduit to spiritual power, you and the other people who share that same conduit share community. That's it. But no, so many of you all consider religion to be a belief system that allows you to not accept realities that make you uncomfortable. It makes you uncomfortable because your identity is rooted in fear, not love. And that, my dears, is not a conduit to a higher power. What it is a fast track to hatred and ignorance and low vibration behavior. Namaste.
The whole thing with religion is it's designed to keep you from ever knowing yourself. And this whole good versus bad thing, this whole sin thing, it doesn't exist. There is no sin. It's just you being a human being. For a lot of people, it's very difficult to allow themselves to truly accept that, because accepting that means you're accepting yourself, and you're accepting the dark parts of you with the light parts of you, the parts that you're not too happy with the parts that you love, and you learn to dance with them, and you learn to be okay that yes, I'm a human being, and sometimes I'm going to be very disciplined, and sometimes I'm not, and everything is gonna be okay.
If you need religion and a book of rules over your head to be a good person, then who would you be without that religion and book of rules? If you need a fairy tale to tell you right from wrong, to have morals, to have respect for others, to not someone, to have empathy, to be loving and caring, then what would you do and who would you be without those things? Who would you be without that religion and set of rules? Ask yourself.
You've probably heard the term gaslighting, but have you heard of spiritual gaslighting? Spiritual gaslighting is a form of manipulation when a person uses spiritual or religious beliefs to control, manipulate, undermine, or deceive a person, which can have severe and lasting effects on someone's mental and emotional health. For example, they might twist scripture or sacred texts to justify their behaviors or manipulate people to behave a certain way. They might claim or display that they have some special insight or special direct connection to God that others don't have as a means of justifying their authority, and might even claim that disobeying them or questioning them is equivalent to disobeying and being rebellious toward God. They may even go as far as trying to isolate you from anyone who thinks or believes or feels differently than you, even isolate you from your family, your community, to kind of keep you in a bubble and control your community and faith experience. By the way, I'm Brittany, and I'm helping you show up freely in the world by unlearning self-doubt, people-pleasing, and toxic narratives, and these were one of mine. I say this as someone who really does believe that faith and spirituality is an important, significant, and integral part of our mental and emotional well-being. Faith tends to be a big part of a lot of people's lives, and when that is twisted and distorted and manipulated and weaponized, it can lead to a real faith crisis. It can lead to diminished self-worth and sense of self, a loss of community and isolation, and uncertainty and confusion. When you're going through these things and trying to make a shift out of these environments, it can have such a hold on you because it's become your whole world that it might be important to find trusted, friends, family members, professionals who can help walk with you and support you through this, who also respect your autonomy and your personal beliefs. You can also respond by saying things like, I understand that that's your perspective, but my faith and my beliefs are very personal and important to me, and I appreciate that we can respect each other's differences. You could also ask, are you saying that my spiritual experiences aren't real or valid? Because I've experienced them personally and they're significantly valuable to me. You could also be more assertive and say, I experience God for myself too. And clearly we have different perspectives and experiences, and that's okay, but it's not okay to dismiss or belittle my experiences. I truly believe that healthy faith should be autonomous and personal, and it is an experience that we all come to for ourselves, for our own convictions and our own values. And all of this plays a big role in our sense of self and how we move through the world.
Respectfully, from a trauma counselor, stop telling people it's God's will whenever something horrific happens to them. Because you're the same people walking around claiming that we have free will. So what is it, free will, or was it God's will? And you don't get to decide that. And that's the cognitive dissonance that religious trauma causes for people. You want to spiritually bypass something horrific that happened to another person because you're uncomfortable having to have that conversation, or maybe you have a hand in it. So it's a lot easier to do avoidance and say, well, that was just God's will. But when it's something that you're okay having a conversation with, that's your will, and we need to talk about why what you did is a sin. None of this is helpful. And what this does is leaves someone questioning for the rest of their life, what is it that I could have possibly done that was so horrific that God wanted this to happen for me? And it takes them out of their bodies and away from their lives that they have to live, because they spend so much time ruminating on why they had to learn what they had to learn when it was just something really shitty and painful that happened by somebody else, their will. So if you can't help someone, the last thing that you need to do is gaslight them by using religion because you're uncomfortable with the situation. That's all. I hope everybody has a...
Hey y'all, welcome back to All Things Jenny. I'm Jenny. So let's talk about religion and sin. So in my opinion, a lot of people, I feel, use the hide behind religion so they can do all the unthinkable things that they should not be doing, even though the said same religion is also telling them thou shalt not do this and thou shalt not do that. But then as they feel as if they call upon Christ and ask for forgiveness, then all things are good. No, well, actually, sin, just like the man said, sin is not real. Your sin, your hell, your karma, you will experience eventually. And if you are someone who has morals, which most people don't, let's be honest, okay? Because if you had morals, you wouldn't be doing certain stuff to hurt or harm someone else, and or do something that goes against, the law or the rules, right? But if you do, you're going to feel your sins. You're going to... Hey y'all, welcome back to All Things Jenny. I'm Jenny. So I've been wanting to cover this topic because I actually was watching this movie, and it's called The Sin Eater. And I'm not sure if I talked about it in like maybe a Diddy video or something, because I compared it to, them doing the spirit cooking and spirit eating, spirit cooking basically. And that's what I kind of saw or kind of reference to, because in my culture, the spirit cooking is also a very spiritual thing, and they do it for a particular reason. But when it comes to the whole Sin Eater, so this movie is on Netflix. I mean, not Netflix, on Prime. It's called The Sin Eater. And when it comes to like religion and also sinning, I feel a lot of Christians use, and it's mainly Christians because they're like the loudest. They like to point out what you're not doing good, what you're not doing right. As a Christian or as a person, you should be following God and you should be doing this right, although they're not doing it right? They're not minding the spiritual business that pay them, basically, right? They're in everybody else's religion and spirituality except for theirs. So anyways, so when I saw that movie, it really had me thinking, because I've always known that, sins, for example, I don't think like your sins, for example, sins is not a bad thing. It's just your carnal side and also your human side. So basically you do certain stuff when it comes to like your cardinal side, you do things that your animalistic part of you wants to do, but you can also control that. And I think a lot of Christian people depend on God to help them control that animalistic part of them, which is basically the part of you that makes you who you are. So you know how like spiritual people always say work on your shadow side, your dark side and all that stuff. Well, it's not necessarily like the dark side, you know, going into like talking to, so spiritual people will basically say I'm working on my shadow side, which means that, you know, we all have certain thoughts sometimes, and it's human thoughts, you know, and it's your job to control those thoughts and not act upon them. And when it comes to Christianity and religion, as someone who is or used to be, because in Christians' opinion, I probably do not deserve savings because I speak about spirituality, you know, because they do like to demonize everyone. Unless you're talking about God, you cannot talk about anything else. So in their eyes, I'm probably like the most devilish person, but I don't care. Only God can judge me, right? And only I can judge myself. But anyways, so when it comes to that, they're doing the most sinning, but then they're judging other people for sinning. And theirs is basically is, so in my opinion, when it comes to sin or your shadow side or your carnal side, Christianity say go to God and ask for forgiveness for the things that you have done or the thoughts that you have thought about, which is your mind, you know. You can control your mind by the things that you think about and by bettering your life by thinking positively and negatively if that's what you want. But anyways, Christians go to God and ask for forgiveness for the way they think and their actions. And spiritual people, in my opinion, we do what's called a dark shadow work, where you would release it in the full moon and basically, you know, write whatever it is, and this is all your belief, because it does not work effectively if you don't believe it, right? So just like Christianity, it won't work if you don't believe it. You give power to it. So therefore you write your things down on a parchment. In my opinion, if you're going to do some work to release dark shadows and dark energy and, you know, work on your darker side, I guess, is if you're trying to release in a way which can consider to be a sin, you would write it down on a parchment paper or any regular paper, and you'll do it on a full moon, because full moon is about releasing, giving birth to new ideas, letting go of old things and all that stuff, right? A new moon is new ideas, but old is releasing the full moon, like a mother giving birth, big belly, the water broke, the moon water, mother, women, and all that. Anyway, so you release it, you burn it, you write it down, you burn it, and you release it. You let it go. That's kind of how it is. But in my opinion, sins is basically your karma. So you do something which could be considered a sin. If it is a sin, then you will get your punishment, or God will deal with you. God you believe in, you know God will deal with you eventually, whether you believe in going to hell or, you know, you looking at yourself in the mirror and regretting what you did and you fall into a deep depression and all that stuff. But it all relates. That's why people say, you know, karma is real. And also, I also believe there are ways to combat karma, because I know plenty of evil people in this world who basically are walking around happy, smiling with a belly full of food, okay? And they're not getting any karma for the things that they do. But I believe deep down inside, they're still dealing with all of the energy that they put out to do something bad to someone or sinning, whatever sin is to you. But there are ways to release those things. And whether it is going to God and praying for forgiveness, or writing it down on parchment paper and releasing into the energy, into, you know, the ethers. But also spiritual people also know that if someone don't do something to you and you do, yeah, so the spiritual law is, unless that person deserves whatever it is that you're doing to them, it will come back to you. And if it doesn't come to you, it will attack a family member or anybody that is aligned with your bloodline. Okay, so you just have to be careful, and you have that person actually have to really be deserving of what it is that you're doing to them. And that is just like Christians believing that God will, get them justice. So if they believe that they didn't do anything wrong, they believe God is going to bring them justice. Just like, when people say, oh, you're going to heaven or hell, well, heaven and hell is basically here. Because when you pass, in my opinion, you either go through and you reincarnate and then you come back and, pick your parents and da-da-da, or you go into the astral realm and you stay there. Whatever it is that your soul is going to do next, you wait until that happens. But in my opinion, when it comes to like heaven, you can create your heaven here. It's really all about like your environment, your home, your peace, your sanity, being able to provide for your family. And have you ever seen of someone who literally have it made, like they literally have any and everything? And not saying that just because they have doesn't mean they're happy. What if they are happy and they have everything that they ever want in life? That would be considered heaven to me, right? And that's what heaven is described as. You have everything you need. You don't need for anything. It literally describes heaven. And to me, that's like a perfect life, But then hell, in my opinion, is, for example, I used to live in Haiti, and even though my parents were here and they were sending money, for us, there were days that I would literally go to sleep hungry to the point where I would cry because I was so hungry and I could not find anything to eat. I didn't have anything to eat. That to me was hell. That to me was hell, period. No. For children to go hungry to the point where they cry because they're so hungry, and for them to not, for them to not have proper health care, children are being born and then not living to be 5 days old or something like that, being in poverty, to me, that's sin and that's hell. And that is just in my opinion. And don't come for me, because I know there's always going to be this one Christian or two Christian in the comment section saying, well, when you start, feeling the fire of hell, you're going to know what true hell is. Well, everybody's hell is different. Maybe you have been taught that, hell is this fire, which is what's in the Bible, that is this fiery place. But when you are going through shit in life and you just do not see where the next meal is coming from, and you don't have a home to live, and you're just constantly stressing out and cannot sleep, that to me is hell. That's hell. That is. When I'm walking down the street and I see a mother on the side of the road and it's super cold outside and she's holding her baby son or her baby daughter in her hands, and she does not have food to feed her kids, and she doesn't have a home to stay, and it's winter, she have to sleep on the floor, she don't know when the next meal is coming, or in a third world country where children are suffering and they're literally like just going through it in life, or even having a kid and not knowing how you're going to provide for that child, and every single day you have to literally depend on other people to provide food for you, and you don't know when the next meal is coming. Those are things that could literally cause you to go and steal and rob people, and then you're going to end up being in jail. Even the whole situation to begin with was already hell, period, right? Because a mother watching their children going hungry and not having food to feed them, to them could be considered hell, right? And then end up in jail because you went to go steal to feed your children, also could be considered as hell. So hell is really a state of mind, a state of being, and what you feel or believe hell is to you. Because at the end of the day, everybody experienced it differently. Everybody also experienced heaven differently, I'm assuming, because it says in my Father's house there's many doors. I'm assuming the doors represent a different pathway, a different destination. So yeah, everybody's many doors, in my opinion, if you're breaking it down, your mind, your mental, many people in the world and everything. So I'm assuming that, in my opinion, your hell is your own personal life and your own personal experience with life, and your heaven is also the same thing. And then you just have to wait to see what goes on in the afterlife. Because my thing, I remember one time a pastor preached and said that, what if you lived your whole life sinning and then come to find out that God is real? Or what if you never believed that God is real and then you die and find out that that was one of the saying that one of the pastors that came to visit our church said. And he went to say a whole lot of other things that basically terrify you. As if like, if you don't turn to God today, you could not wake up tomorrow and then you go straight to hell. Imagine trying to fear someone into believing something. To me, that's crazy because a lot of time they use fear mongering to make you believe in God or to make you believe in Christianity in order for you to, join the group. Do you guys see that movie? It's called Heretic. And it was basically about these two girls who are from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And they went to this man's house and they just trust him so much because they had no discernment, basically. Trust him so much, went into his house, and he basically kidnapped the two girls and then started telling them that religion is fake. Okay, so I'm just going to briefly describe the whole movie, The Sin Eater, to you, what I saw on Netflix. So basically, it's this old man who has all the wealth in the world, and that's what I was saying about you might in the outside it might look like it's your heaven, but also you might be going through hell for the things that you did, which is your sin. So he was basically trying to create his heaven. Meanwhile, he caused so many people so much pain in order for him to have this heaven. And then he basically could not have a good night's sleep because all of his sins were basically attacking him in his sleep, in the waking life, and all that stuff. And not only just his sins, but there were multiple other people's sins that were basically attacking him. Like physically, this man could not sleep. Although he had all the money in the world, if he had great grandchildren, they would be set for life and they never have to work ever again. That's how much money he had. So this young man came to work at his house, and this young man was so poor. This man didn't even have $20 to get the bus. That's how bad it was. So he saw this young man who was basically struggling for money, came to work at his house to build some sort of something for him, which turned out to be an altar. He told the man ended up going to the house to wash his hands, and he saw a stack of money and told $20. The old man was there watching him. Then he told him, hey, I can help you if you really need money because I have all this wealth and I'm dying and I need someone to take over all the wealth. But he did not tell him what was required. And I know like people are going to say, oh, well, this is how the devil will tempt you when you're at your lowest. Well, people just love to blame the devil, let me tell you. Because in my opinion, I would be questioning what is the motive? Why are you trying to give me all this for no reason? You know what I mean? You don't have any reason. All that he required from this young man is for you to eat a last meal off of my dead corpse. And then, everything will be yours. If, for example, I'm someone who think logic, if I'm someone who has 1 or 2 brain cells and I have logical thinking abilities, I'm going to wonder, what is the catch? Why are you offering me all this? And all I have to do is just eat a last meal off your corpse. First of all, it's ridiculous that someone will have to eat a meal off your corpse in order to have all the wealth. But then in some people's opinion, it might not be that bad of a thing to do. But as someone who knows about like the afterlife and all that stuff, I wouldn't do that. But he decided to do it. He agreed, and literally the next day, a private car came to pick him up saying that the man passed, right? The man was fine, and all of a sudden he passed literally overnight. So then he came and they said, this is what you need to do. You have to read this chant, you have to eat this food off of his corpse, and you have to eat every single piece. No crumbs left behind. That's how you have literally everything. Then you have to say this chant, and this is where they got him. So they basically said the people working in the house, and they know everything that's going on, like the house is haunted, all these things. But they said that you have to eat every single piece of food off this man's body. So the appetizer, the entree, desserts, drinks, all of that. And then afterwards you have to say this chant, and then you have to drink this drink, and then the ceremony will be over. But they have like clothes ready for him, the pen he's going to use, everything, which to me is a red flag, right? So then he went ahead and did it. This man could not even finish the food, but he did anyways. And as soon as he finished, things started happening where he felt like he was being hunted. And it's not even about like, oh, well, Satan offer you some riches and all that stuff. No, you just have to have discernment. It's not even about like Satan, because everybody just love to give Satan credit. It's about discernment and knowing something just don't seem right. Like, why is this man offering me all this money just to eat off of his corpse? And plus, eating off of a corpse. Now at this point, this young man is basically wealthy overnight, right? So things are starting to happen to him where he's starting to see things. He's starting to see this lady who basically looked like she was murdered. And then he started asking questions to the the lady of the house, who basically is the housekeeper, who's been there her whole life. Then that's when the lady started to tell him that it was a ritual that they did, where he basically, once he eat the food off of this man's corpse, he eat the man's sins. And not only did he eat his sins, but he eat everyone else's sins that came before him. So it's a religion thing that back in the days, I think they're from Romania or Armenia, whatever, but basically it's from the movie, right? They'll find someone poor in any country, any place, who is desperate enough to have food to eat, which to me, you're poor, you're dealing with life problems, in my opinion, is really sin. You're going through all these things that you cannot get yourself. And this young man also was a religious man. So this guy just found a sucker, and he said, yeah, I'll give you all of this if you just do this one thing, and then that's guarantee you to be wealthy for the rest of your life. So then he said that from back in the days, and many years from then, all these people who went through this whole ceremony, they will get all the wealth. And then the only thing is, once they pass on, like once they die, that sin follows them in the afterlife. So they have to find someone to leave the burden for, right? So they will find someone in the village who's poor, desperate for, will literally do anything and offer them to eat the food off of their corpse, and them not knowing that once you eat that food, you're collecting all of these people's sins and everyone that came before them. And this man thinking, oh, well, I'm going to get a priest to help me attack this lady that is attacking me in the waking life, and she's a ghost. Well, the priest helped him to get rid of that lady who was the ghost. And comes to find out, that lady was the one that the wealthy man ended up, he shot her in the head because he was cheating on his wife with her, and then she didn't want to leave because he was done cheating, and she didn't want to leave, so he took her out. So that was his sin, and that was the very last sin that happened before that young man collect the sin, right? So then, after he got rid of that lady, then other people's sins that was eaten by this man, because he himself was a victim of someone finding him to be a poor man and giving him an opportunity to eat a meal off of somebody else's corpse. So that person's sins transferred to him. So when he ate it, he ended up starting to, his life basically is going off the hinges, right? But he's wealthy. So he ended up doing unthinkable. He started stressing out. Life is going to shit. Even though he have all this money in the world that he could never be able to spend in a lifetime, he started doing stuff where he ended up taking somebody else's life. And then basically everyone since prior to him, it's like a domino effect. So everyone who eat that meal now holds the sin of all the forefathers that came before, right? So then when the young man got rid of the first lady, and then more people start coming, literally he had to trick his own best friend, because the best friend really wanted to get out of a situation that he was in. He tricked his own best friend and made his best friend eat a meal off of his almost dead corpse, because what he did was he really wanted to rid himself from the sins, because you have to do that, or else even if you die, you're going to experience it in the past life. And that is the reason why those people did it, so they can remove themselves from their sins. So they passed their sin to somebody else in a ways of eating a meal off of their corpse, so therefore it remove their sin, so now they're free in the afterlife. So now this young man, in order for him to be able to rid himself from the sins that he just picked up from the old man not even a month ago, he ended up doing something. I think he went under anesthesia. I don't know what he did, but I know he did something that basically put him in a state where it almost like he died, and then he ended up seeing his mom who had passed on, and and then they brought him back. But in that time, he had the best friend eat the meal off of his corpse, and the best friend ended up taking on the sin. And now the best friend is now stuck in that mansion screaming bloody murder, because he is seeing things that he do not want to see, because he take on all of their sins. So now the man went back to his regular life, working a regular job, making minimum wage, because as long as he did not have all these things. But it's not about, moral of the story is, it's not about riches and wealth, because you can be wealthy and be happy and be a good person. You can be poor and be a good person and be happy. You can also be wealthy and be miserable and be sad and not be a good person. You can also be poor and be miserable and be sad and also not a good person. So there's people, there's those kind of people in both sides. So it really doesn't have to do nothing to have to do with money, but it's to have to do with the sins. You are your sin carrier. You have to carry your own sins. Whatever you do on this earth, you're going to see it on this earth. You're going to pay for it on this earth. Whether you want to avoid it or not, and be like have a associative personality disorder where you basically try to disassociate yourself from the sin, you're still going to deal with it. Just like people like in Hollywood who will say, oh, I see dark shadows, I have to do this and that, I have to take this and that to sleep.